Heartwarming confession revealed, wife's touching betrayal sparks life-changing family exposé. Jack Thompson stood knee-deep in his world of grease and metal, surrounded by the comforting hum of tools and the scent of motor oil that wrapped around him like a familiar blanket. The engine he was working on sat like a wounded beast on the rack. His heart, however, felt like it was in worse shape. The economy teetered on the edge, the auto industry crumbled, and every day he worked as a mechanic felt heavier. Jack was 38, a devoted father, and his love for his kids' future fueled each wrench turn. But the relentless pursuit of the American dream had turned into a race against time. Meanwhile, Sarah, his vibrant partner, was fading. Once the heartbeat of their home, she now felt buried beneath the weight of suburban life. Their marriage, once filled with laughter, was dwindling into silent dinners and half-hearted conversations. She craved connection, and that craving led her to Tom, the magnetic leader at the local community center. Their friendship grew amidst summer barbecues and neighborhood fundraisers, becoming a flame that warmed Sarah's heart, yet it quickly sparked a fire of its own. Things spiraled when an anonymous letter slipped through Jack's hands, a confession more painful than any car repair. Sarah's betrayal, laid bare, shattered him. He couldn't confront her. Pride took root in his chest, planting seeds of self-doubt and resentment that choked him as he watched his world fracture. Every whispered accusation seemed to echo through their home. The walls felt closer, his heart heavy with resentment, while despair seeped into their family life. With every tick of the shop clock, Jack sought refuge in the comforting clatter of his tools. Late nights were filled with the rhythm of clinks and clanks that drowned out the chaos of his emotions. Anxiety twisted in his gut, holding him captive between love for his children and the instinct to shield himself from destruction. Just as he wrestled with the decision to confront Sarah, tragedy struck. An elderly war veteran who had once inspired Jack with tales of bravery fell gravely ill. The news swept through their close-knit community, uniting neighbors in a heartwarming dance of kindness and solidarity for a man who had served them all. In the midst of this communal outpouring, Jack rediscovered purpose. The anguish inside him was temporarily muted as he joined forces with the community to support the veteran. Acts of kindness began to spark hope back into his heart, ambushing the darkness of betrayal. He was motivated to fight against his own grief, ready to reclaim his sense of self. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jack began to glimpse clarity through the labyrinth of pain, Sarah's long-hidden secrets shattered like glass. She unveiled a plan to save their struggling family from despair, igniting a flicker of hope in Jack's chest. Yet as excitement clashed with betrayal, the question loomed like a storm cloud: could he truly forgive? Would they, once a united front, be strong enough to come back from this fracture, or would the rift they faced be too deep? In the flickering light of hope and despair, they stood at a crossroads, their community offering unexpected support where judgment was expected. Can love conquer betrayal, or will the scars of the past keep them apart? The answer lingered in the air, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Jack stood in his garage, tools strewn around him, but his mind was miles away. The wrench in his hand felt heavier than ever. Sarah's confession echoed in his mind, drowning out the engine's hum. Could he truly forgive her? The noise of the world outside faded, leaving just the weight of his thoughts. As he stared at the broken engine, he pictured their family before the betrayal. Weekend mornings filled with laughter and pancakes turned into shifting silences at the dining table. He missed the easy laughter, the lightness of being together without a shadow of doubt hanging over them. But today was different. He felt an urge to confront the truth, to bring forth the secrets that loomed overhead like a dark cloud. The way Sarah looked at him now, with a mix of remorse and love, it stirred up something inside him. Was it time to shed the armor of pride and pain? Could vulnerability replace the bitterness that had taken root in their lives? Just then, his phone buzzed. A text from Sarah lit up the screen. "Can we talk? I need you to listen." Her words, so simple yet laced with desperation, sent a ripple of uncertainty through him. What more could she say? The thought of opening that door again filled him with dread and hope all at once. Reluctantly, he grabbed his jacket and headed home, his heart pounding with every step. The drive felt like miles, the road ahead stretching endlessly before him. Memories swirled in his mind, their wedding, the birth of their kids, countless everyday moments that seemed perfect in retrospect. Every flash of joy was now shadowed by betrayal. When he stepped into the house, the atmosphere felt charged, thick with unspoken words. Sarah was sitting on the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She looked almost small, swallowed by the cushions. When she saw him, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Jack," she whispered, voice trembling as she beckoned him closer. "I need you to hear me out, just one last time. I want to explain everything." He nodded, feeling a tight knot in his throat. "Okay. Promise you'll listen?" she pleaded. He took a deep breath, knowing he had to make a choice. It was tempting to turn away, to slip back into his protective shell, but something an ember of hope nudged him forward. As she spoke, recounting more of her feelings than he thought she would, a sense of longing washed over him. She spoke of loneliness, of feeling lost and unheard. For a moment, he understood her plight, how easy it was to stray when love felt like a distant memory. But then the air shifted. Sarah's admission of guilt clashed with the warmth of her recollection. "I still love you, Jack." "That hasn't changed," she said, vulnerability spilling from her. His heart twisted at her words. Love, he realized, was complicated. It could bloom amidst betrayal and still be fragile. "Is that enough?" he asked, barely above a whisper. "Is that enough for us to mend this?" Silence wrapped around them, heavy with possibility. Jack's pulse quickened as he sensed the crossroads they faced. Could they rebuild on the foundations of their past, or were they too broken for repair? "Let us find out," she finally whispered, reaching across to take his hand. The warmth of her touch ignited something deep within him. Maybe, just maybe, they could forge a new path. But vulnerability had its price, and as Jack's heart beat louder, he felt the dawning realization that healing was only the beginning. With a deep, steadying breath, they both knew that the road to redemption was just beginning. Would their love be strong enough to endure the trials ahead? As they sat in that charged silence, Jack realized the hard truth: healing takes time. But in that moment, the spark of hope flickered brighter and a new question echoed softly in the depths of his mind: what would it take to truly forgive and move forward together? The air between them felt electric, filled with untold stories and unspoken pain. Jack's heart thumped in his chest, a chaotic rhythm that mirrored the turmoil inside. He could hear the faint ticking of time passing, each moment stretching into what felt like eternity. He could hardly breathe, the weight of his decision looming as Sarah's fingers intertwined with his. "Jack," she broke the silence, her voice shaking. "I know I don't deserve your trust. Not after everything. But I want to show you, somehow, that I'm committed to making this work. You and the kids matter more to me than anything else." Her eyes searched his, their depths revealing a vulnerability he had once cherished. He yearned to respond, but the knot in his throat tightened. "What does that mean?" he finally managed, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. "I want to be transparent," she said slowly, choosing her words carefully. "I've kept secrets that hurt us, but I want to be open now. No more hiding. I need you to see my entire truth. It might not fix anything, but it could help, maybe even let you into my world again." Jack stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. It was terrifying to think of what those secrets might entail, but he could sense a shift in the air. A chance for something real. "Okay," he responded, steadying himself. "I'm listening." As she opened up, recounting the emotional void she had felt. Jack remembered the fated moments they used to share, the way they had laughed over ice cream, or how they had worked side by side in the garden. Each memory, once a spark of warmth, now felt like an ember being stoked by her honesty. "I just felt so alone," Sarah continued, tears brimming in her eyes. "You were so lost in work, and I thought I could find some connection elsewhere. But it was wrong, so wrong." Jack's heart ached for her. Loneliness was a destructive force, twisting love into something unrecognizable. "Still, that doesn't justify," he started to say, but her small gasp stopped him. "I know." She cried softly, anguish mixing with her sorrow. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But Jack, I've realized how much I've hurt you and our family. I let all of us down. I want to fight for us, however long it takes." Just then, a distant laugh echoed from the kids' room, pulling Jack's attention momentarily away from Sarah. It was a beautiful sound, innocent and carefree. The very essence of everything they had built together. He looked back at her, torn between the love he still felt and the ache of betrayal. "Sarah," he whispered, the deep well of emotions threatening to overflow. "Do we even remember how to be us?" "I do," she replied, her voice steady now, carried by a flicker of hope. "And I believe we can find our way back, one step at a time. But we have to work together. You and I, as partners." Please. As they sat there, hearts laid bare, Jack felt his defenses slowly begin to waver. The promise of healing was daunting, but she had laid her soul out for him. With this confession came the seeds of change. He didn't know if they would thrive, but the light of possibility was something new they could nurture together. "I want to try," he finally said, his voice brave and steady. "But you have to understand how hard this will be for both of us." "I will," she vowed, fierce determination warming her voice. "I'll do whatever it takes." But just as they began to craft a fragile bridge between the past and future, a sharp knock sounded at the door, interrupting their fragile moment. Jack's heart dropped. What now? He glanced at Sarah, uncertainty reflecting back at him. Who could it be? He muttered, anxiety creeping back in. Neither of them expected that answer to unravel the very threads of hope they had just begun to weave. The knock echoed again, sharper this time, slicing through the fragile cocoon they'd just begun to mend. Jack felt a chill skitter down his spine, all the warmth shared moments ago now replaced by a cold uncertainty. Sarah's face mirrored his concern, her brow furrowing as they exchanged glances. "Should I answer it?" Jack murmured, mostly to himself. The notion felt daunting, as if whoever stood at the door carried a piece of truth that could shatter everything they had just started to rebuild. "Yes," Sarah urged softly, her grip tightening around his hand. "Whoever it is, we'll face it together." Gathering his courage, Jack made his way to the front door. Each step was heavy, like wading through mud. He peeked through the peephole, relief flooding through him when he recognized the face on the other side. It was their neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, holding a plate of cookies. Jack hesitated, then opened the door. "Hey, Mrs. Thompson. What's up?" She beamed at him, her vibrant smile a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside. "I brought you these," she chirped, holding out the plate like an offering. "I thought you and the kids might enjoy some fresh-baked cookies." "Thanks," he said, forcing a smile as he accepted the plate. "That's really nice of you." Just then, he heard a noise behind him, and a small figure rushed into the entryway. It was Mia, their youngest, her curly hair bouncing with each step. "Mom! Look!" Mrs. Thompson brought cookies. Jack's heart twisted slightly at the sight of her innocence, her face lighting up in unrestrained joy. It struck him how, despite the chaos between him and Sarah, their children remained oblivious to the cracks threatening their family. "Oh, that looks delicious!" Sarah exclaimed, appearing behind Jack, her voice suddenly bright, yet he could see the tremor beneath her facade. It was a moment that felt almost normal, weaving a thin layer of comfort around them, if only for a heartbeat. Mrs. Thompson observed the three of them, her expression shifting. You know, I was just telling my husband how we've all been neighbors for years now. You all used to have such lively gatherings. Maybe it's time to bring that back. A little barbecue this weekend? Jack shot a quick look at Sarah, searching for any sign of agreement or discomfort. This proposal hit harder than it should have. They couldn't just pretend everything was fine. Sure, that sounds great. Sarah replied, her enthusiasm catching him off guard. Right, Jack? Yeah, sounds good, he replied, his voice trailing off. A barbecue could be a chance for connection, but it was also a spotlight on their fragile family dynamics. Wonderful. I'll bring my famous potato salad, Mrs. Thompson beamed, before heading back to her house, leaving them standing in the doorway, the plate of cookies in Jack's hand growing heavier with each moment. As the door clicked shut, the air felt thick again. A barbecue? Jack said, turning to Sarah, bewildered. We can't just act like it's business as usual. I know, she replied softly, stepping closer. But it could be a way to show we're trying. Just imagine the kids laughing with their friends, enjoying that normalcy. Are we really ready for that? Jack asked, skepticism lacing his words. It felt like a facade, a distraction from the real work that lay ahead. Their foundation was still too shaky. I believe we can figure it out, Sarah pressed, her gaze unwavering. If we can face this together, maybe we can make it through anything. His pulse quickened, uncertainty swirling within him. Perhaps opening that door had been a mistake. The barbecue enough to crumble their tentative steps toward healing. Maybe we're rushing. Just then, the sound of the kids laughing erupted from the living room, drawing both their attention. Jack felt the tug of familial bonds calling him back to those moments of joy. But was it enough to bridge the gap? As he stood there, torn between hope and doubt, one truth loomed. They were only beginning their journey. They had a long way to go. Would the barbecue bring them closer, or would it shine a light on cracks that needed more than just cookies to mend? In that moment, Jack knew they had decisions to make that could shift everything. He turned back to Sarah, determined yet anxious. So, what do we need to do first? And with those words, they stepped onto uncharted ground, where the path ahead was unclear, yet charged with unspoken potential. Jack took a deep breath, trying to muster the energy needed to face whatever lay ahead. He glanced at the plate of cookies, their sweetness a stark contrast to the bitterness lingering in his heart. First, we need to talk, he said, his voice steadying. About us. Sarah's eyes widened, a flash of fear crossing her face. Are we doing this now? We can't keep pretending everything's okay, he said, his words firm yet gentle. We have to be honest with each other, for our sake and the kids. Silence settled between them, a thick blanket of tension. Jack could feel the weight of what was unsaid pressing down on his shoulders. What if they see us fighting? Sarah asked, gesturing towards the living room where the kids were laughing with a carefree abandon. They already feel the distance between us. I don't want to hide it anymore. We've got to face it head on, he insisted. With a nod that felt like a concession, Sarah took a step closer. Her lipstick smudged slightly from earlier that day, she looked vulnerable, and for the first time, Jack saw the cracks in her facade. Okay. I'm scared, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Me too, he admitted, anguish coursing through him. But maybe that's okay. It means we're still trying. We can't ignore how we got here. Sarah crossed her arms, a protective gesture, almost as if shielding herself from the storm brewing inside. What if talking just makes things worse? Or it could be the start of getting better, Jack suggested, hopeful. We won't know if we're too afraid to step outside the lines we've drawn. Jack felt the intensity of their emotions swirling, an unsteady tango between fear and hope. With a tentative smile, he added, maybe we can write down what's bothering us. Get it all out there, you know. She hesitated, pondering the idea, then nodded slowly. Like a family message, but just for us. Exactly, he replied, excitement building. It might give us a clearer view of what we're dealing with. Sarah took a deep breath. Okay, let's try. They moved together to the dining table, which had become so many things, a workspace, a family center, a battleground. Jack grabbed some paper and 2 pens, the kids' colorful drawing still tacked to the fridge, a reminder of the joy they once shared. As they sat down, he caught Sarah's gaze. They both understood that honesty would be the key. With pens in hand, they began to write. Jack's thoughts jumped from fear of failure to memories of better days, while Sarah penned her hidden regrets and dreams for the future, cracking open pieces of her heart she had kept sealed. Every scribble felt like a release. But with each stroke, Jack was reminded of the depth of their disconnect, the barriers they had built. When the silence grew heavy again, he clenched the paper tightly, heart thudding with possibility. Ready to share? He asked, anticipation mingling with trepidation. A shiver of doubt crossed Sarah's face. What if I say something that I can't take back? Then I promise I'll take it all in, Jack said. This is about understanding, not judgment. A moment passed, then Sarah nodded. They began to read aloud, revealing words that felt raw and jagged yet necessary. It was an exercise in vulnerability, and the air crackled with tension and a flicker of understanding. Each breath between them began to weave a thread of connection, one that had frayed for too long. As they laid their thoughts bare, Jack could feel their lives shifting, like the weight of heavy clouds before the rain. I want to believe we can fix this, he whispered after sharing his fears, his voice breaking slightly. And I want to try, Sarah replied, tears glistening in her eyes, but a spark of hope igniting between them. But as they emptied their souls, the reality settled in. What if this wasn't enough? What if more complicated truths were still hidden beneath the surface? Struggling against a wave of apprehension, Jack looked at Sarah and asked, do you think there's more we need to talk about? Sarah bit her lip, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Maybe, but can we handle it now? The air hung thick with anticipation, the future uncertain yet charged with potential. Jack braced himself, recognizing their fragile foundation. Let us find out. He didn't know what lay ahead, but in that moment, the next leap felt both terrifying and exhilarating. What if that leap revealed truths they weren't ready to face? Jack's heart raced as he watched Sarah's expression shift from uncertainty to something deeper, a mingling of hope and fear that mirrored his own. We can handle this, he said, though his voice quivered slightly. We owe it to ourselves and to the kids to be honest. Taking a shaky breath, Sarah reached for her paper, the trembling of her fingers evident. All right, she said, her voice stronger now, yet still laced with hesitation. Let us dive in. As they exchanged words, Jack could sense a shift. Each confession felt like ink spilling onto paper, some moments joyful, others jagged and painful. When Sarah spoke about the weight of her loneliness, about feeling unseen while he was lost in his own world, Jack's stomach twisted painfully. He had no idea how heavy her heart had been, how much she had held back. I've been feeling so isolated, Sarah admitted, her eyes glistening. Like I'm running this race alone and you're just not there to cheer me on. Jack's heartbeat quickened, her words cutting deep. He had thought he was doing everything to provide, to secure their family's future, but had it cost them the present? I didn't know, he whispered, shame flooding his voice. I never wanted you to feel that way. I know you didn't. But it happened, she said, shaking her head as if trying to clear a fog. And I need to say this, there were times when I felt so unheard that I considered reaching out to someone else. The confession hit Jack like a punch to the gut. His breath caught. What do you mean? Sarah looked down, anguish twisting her features. It didn't go anywhere, but I thought about it. It scared me how easily I was tempted. It just felt like someone could listen. Jack felt as if the ground beneath him had crumbled. Sarah, why didn't you tell me? We could have fixed this together. I was scared, she said, tears spilling over. Scared to hurt you. Scared of what that would mean for us. We've built so much together. Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustration mingling with a torrent of emotion. You're right. We've built a life. But now I feel like it's all slipping away. Silence fell, thick and heavy, each lost second echoing their fears. Jack struggled to find his voice, aching for the bond they had, but now aware of the gaping holes that needed to be filled. Do you want to fix this? He blurted, hope and urgency mingling in his chest. Do we both still want it? Her eyes met his, searching for something. I do want to try if we can be honest. If we can work through the darkness together. At that moment, a soft giggle broke through from the living room, the sound of their children playing, blissfully unaware of the turmoil swirling just beyond their door. Jack and Sarah exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. They still had a chance to create something better. We owe it to them, Sarah whispered, the resolve creeping back into her voice. But it's going to take work. Jack nodded, feeling both terrified and oddly liberated. Then let us start working. One conversation at a time. But even as they vowed to turn the tide, a nagging doubt rooted itself in Jack's gut. Had they truly uncovered all the layers that needed peeling back? As he watched Sarah's face, illuminated by hope, part of him wondered what other confessions might linger in the shadows, waiting for their chance to emerge. What if we need to talk about more than just us? He asked hesitantly, the question hanging in the air like an unanswered prayer. Sarah's gaze shifted, uncertainty creeping back in. What do you mean? Jack swallowed hard, his heart racing again. What if there are deeper issues behind everything? Like, unresolved pain from our pasts. Stuff we never addressed. Sarah's eyes widened as the weight of his words sunk in. They were both on the brink of revelation, but there was still so much more to uncover. Can we handle that, Jack? She finally replied, worry settling in her brow. With the future stretched before them like an uncharted path, Jack realized that their journey was only just beginning. The laughter from the living room faded into the background as Jack and Sarah faced each other. The weight of possibilities pressed heavily between them, like a taut string ready to snap. Jack felt a surge of urgency. We've been so focused on the here and now that maybe we've buried things from before, things that shaped us. What do you mean? Sarah asked cautiously. Remember our families? The things we grew up with? He said, his thoughts racing. Maybe those experiences are whispering in the background, affecting how we act now. Sarah bit her lip, pondering. You mean like how my dad left when I was young? Or the way your parents fought all the time? Exactly, he affirmed, his heart pounding. I think we've both carried those wounds. We can't expect to understand each other if we don't dig into that past. A flicker of fear ignited in Sarah's eyes. What if it's too painful? What if it opens old wounds we can't heal? Jack stepped closer, his urgency compelling him to grasp her hands. It might be painful, but isn't it more painful to let those things control us without even knowing? They are shadows in our lives, Sarah. Shadows that made us who we are. For a long moment, silence wrapped around them, heavy as the air before a storm. Jack's pulse raced, knowing this conversation could lead them into uncharted territory. He felt exposed, vulnerable, but also emboldened. All right, Sarah finally exhaled, her voice steadying. But we have to promise to be gentle with each other. We can't blame the past for what we've become today. He nodded, a flicker of relief lighting his chest. Promise. We're on this together. As their grip tightened, Jack felt a thrill of hope. This was a step they had been afraid to take. They were barreling into healing territory, but an unexpected thought lurked at the back of his mind. How would these revelations shift everything they thought they knew? It was then that they heard another giggle from the living room. A moment later, their youngest burst into the room, cheeks flushed and eyes bright. Mommy! Daddy! Look what we made! The sight of their child holding a finger-painted picture, an abstract mess of colors and shapes, made them smile. For a moment, the weight of their discussion lifted, a genial lightness surfacing. "That's beautiful," Sarah exclaimed, her voice brightening. She crouched down, pulling the child into a hug. Jack watched, warmth flooding him, feeling a blend of nostalgia and longing. "Do you think they know?" he wondered aloud, his tone half joking, half serious. "Know what?" Sarah replied, glancing back at him. "How hard we're working. How much this matters." She tilted her head thoughtfully. "I hope not. I hope we can shield them from all of this chaos, at least for now." "But they might sense the change," Jack said, his brow furrowing. "Children are sensitive. They pick up on emotions." His words stirred something deep in Sarah. "You're right. We need a plan. If we're digging up the past, we should also focus on how we want our family to grow." Jack's heart surged once more with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "What do you envision?" "I want laughter like this. I want our home to feel safe, connected, alive," she shared, her eyes brightening at the vision of their future. He felt a rush of determination. "Then let us do it. Let us reshape our family story." As the child giggled, an energy filled the room, an unspoken agreement settled over them. They could create an environment that thrived on honesty and love, forging a path fresh and bright, but lurking beneath that optimism was a quiet uncertainty. Could they keep their promise to stay gentle with each other as they uncovered old scars that might run deeper than they remembered? With the room aglow in warmth and laughter, Jack felt a blend of hope and anxiety swirl in his chest. They were standing on a precipice, but which direction would they jump? "Are we ready to face what comes next?" he whispered, the question hanging delicately in the air. Jack felt the weight of his question linger like an echo in the air. The room was suddenly thick with potential, possibilities spiraling around him. He gazed into Sarah's eyes, searching for comfort but finding only the reflection of his own uncertainty. "Let us take it step by step," she said softly, breaking the momentary silence. "We've carried these weights for so long. Maybe we can start small." "Small sounds good," Jack replied, thankful for her grounding presence. "Okay, how about we share one memory from our childhood that still feels heavy?" she suggested, her voice steady yet vulnerable. Jack took a breath, memories surfacing unbidden. The fights, the screaming from his parents' bedroom, the feeling of being invisible. He wanted to keep that buried. But guilt washed over him for even considering hiding it. "I remember one night," he began hesitantly. "My dad had a few too many drinks. I was supposed to be asleep, but I heard them. It was loud, really loud. I felt so helpless. I wanted to fix it, but how do you fix something that's already broken?" Tears prickled Sarah's eyes as she listened. "That sounds awful, Jack. I can't even imagine what it felt like." It was. And what's worse, it made me distrust my own ability to stay in one place. After that, I was convinced everything would fall apart. So, I held everyone at arm's length. I thought it was how to stay safe." His voice trembled slightly, a mix of shame and relief spilling out. "Well, I think the fact that you can share this shows how far you've come," she offered gently, squeezing his hand. "It's brave to confront it." Her warmth encouraged him to go deeper. "And you? What's been hidden in your heart?" Sarah paused, clearly wrestling with her own truth. "My dad left when I was young, but it was the way he left that hurt most. I waited for him to come back, for him to say it was a mistake. I begged my mom to let him return. When he finally did show up, it was for a weekend and I was so excited. But then he didn't even remember my favorite toy. I felt so forgotten, so unimportant." Jack felt a pang as her words sank in. How could they have both been so deeply affected and carried their scars alone for so long? "Sarah, I had no idea. I'm so sorry," he whispered, fighting off his own sorrow for her pain. "It's okay. I learned to be strong. But I think it also made me afraid of losing love. I put up walls. I never wanted to be unimportant again, she confessed, the vulnerability in her voice sending a shiver down his spine. Maybe these walls are what we need to break down together. Jack suggested, feeling a flicker of unity spark between them. Yes, she agreed, the affirmation brightening her expression. But we also need moments that fill our home with laughter, don't we? We need joy. Like painting together. He smiled. Exactly, she laughed, wiping away a tear. And having family game nights. Doing silly dances in the kitchen. Jack felt lighter, buoyed by the vision of laughter they were building. They could weave joy through the tapestry of their healing. But just as the conversation opened a door toward hope, Sarah's expression shifted slightly, a hint of unease flashing in her eyes. But what if, as we dig up all this past pain, we uncover something that could change everything? Things we didn't even know about ourselves. Jack's heart skipped a beat, the air growing thick with unspoken fears. Maybe we're ready for that, he whispered, uncertainty lurking at the edges of his optimism. Could they truly face their hidden truths without unraveling the love they fought so hard to build? The silence enveloped them, heavy and taut. Jack's pulse raced, uncertainty biting at him. Could they really peel back the layers of hurt without losing what they had fought so hard to create? The warmth of Sarah's hand in his was comforting yet grounding, reminding him of the anchor she had become in his sometimes tumultuous sea of emotions. What do you think it could be? He asked, his voice tentative. What if we find something we never wanted to know? A flicker of fear crossed Sarah's face, but it quickly turned into a determined resolve. Then we confront it. Together, she stated, her tone stronger now. I believe we can handle anything as long as we're honest. Honest. Jack echoed, rolling the word around his mind like a pebble in his palm. What if that honesty changes everything? She took a breath, her expression softening. What if it's meant to? What if we discover something that allows us to heal more completely? We can't keep building on a shaky foundation. Jack nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling deep within him. Memories flooded back. He thought of the times he'd pulled away, fearful of the cracks showing in their relationship. But Sarah was right. Real healing couldn't happen behind walls. They needed to shake off the dust and confront the fears they both lived with. Okay, he finally said, the spark of hope igniting within him. Let us make a pact. We'll face whatever comes up. No hiding, no avoiding. Her eyes lit up, and she squeezed his hand with renewed fervor. Yes. We promise to be open. No matter what. But, he added quickly, if it gets too intense, if we feel like we're unraveling, we pause. We take a step back. We promise to check in with each other. Deal, she agreed, stepping carefully. Jack began to peel back layers that had long been neglected. What if we explore those childhood memories more? Maybe we can start there, the things that really shaped us. Sarah nodded, her gaze steady yet vulnerable. Okay. I'll go first this time. She took a deep breath, collecting herself. Jack could see the flicker of memory sparking in her eyes, the shadows of the past painting her features. I remember my best friend from school. She was my rock when my dad left. But, there was this one day I found out she had been talking about me behind my back. I felt so betrayed, like I wasn't worth defending. That moment it added to the walls I built around myself. Jack felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He could see how much that memory had hurt her, how it echoed the earlier pain of her father leaving. That's tough, Sarah. It's like betrayal became part of your story, shaping how you see relationships even now, he said gently. Exactly, she said, her voice thick. I realized later that loyalty is what I craved most. It's why I've always been nervous about being vulnerable, afraid it would lead to another betrayal. Jack's heart ached for her. The very walls she had built to protect herself were now the same barriers keeping her from embracing love fully. "I wish you could see how worthy you are of love," he whispered, trying to convey all the compassion he felt. "In every aspect, you matter. Your past doesn't define you." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, and she took a moment to collect herself. "Thank you, Jack. This feels liberating, and terrifying." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, pulling them both from their intense moment. They exchanged startled glances before bursting out laughing nervously, breaking some of the tension. "What was that?" Jack called out, half joking. "Is the spirit of our childhood haunting us? Maybe it's a sign." Sarah chuckled, but underneath the laughter, Jack sensed her lingering concern. "What if we really do uncover more than we bargained for?" she asked, her tone dropping again, the seriousness returning. Jack leaned in closer. "Whatever we uncover, we'll face it together. No more running." Sarah nodded slowly. But in the back of his mind, a question hung heavy as they headed toward the kitchen. What if the next memory was too painful to face? What if it changed everything yet again? As they stepped into the kitchen, Jack felt a wave of apprehension wash over him. What could await them beyond the laughter, just around the corner? The warmth of togetherness wrapped around Jack and Sarah as they cautiously stepped into the kitchen. Laughter from their children chimed in the background, a sweet reminder of the joy still bubbling beneath their own layers of complexity. But that joy was now tinged with the gravity of their shared vulnerability. As they approached the kitchen, they found Mia clutching a plate of cookies, a casualty of youthful exuberance, with crumbs covering her cheeks. Jack couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. "What happened here?" he asked, feigning a stern voice, which quickly dissolved into softness at her sheepish grin. Mia beamed, holding up her prize. "I just wanted to be like you, Daddy. Look, I was baking." "Baking chaos, more like it," Sarah teased, bending down to wipe Mia's face with a napkin. Jack felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of normalcy that contrasted sharply with the cavernous chasms they were working to fill. After a moment, Jack turned to Sarah, her hands resting on Mia's shoulders, their connection palpable. "You know, maybe this is a good reminder of why we're doing this," he said, his voice lower but filled with intent. "We want to rebuild our foundation so Mia and her brother can grow up in a happy home." "Exactly," Sarah replied, her eyes shimmering. "They deserve to feel secure and loved." Jack's heart fluttered at her words. That was the core of their journey. But the moment of ease was fleeting. What if digging deeper exposed more than both of them could handle? "Mia, how about you let us clean up here while you go play with your brother?" "We'll be right there," he proposed gently. The girl hesitated, glancing back to the mess of broken cookies before darting away with a promise to return. "Thank you, my little baker," Jack called after her, then turned to Sarah. "All right, where were we?" They resumed their earlier conversation, the weight of the past still hanging in the air. "I think it's time we confront the memories that still linger for us," Sarah proposed, her voice shaking slightly with anxiety. "What if we don't just share the surface ones? What about the things we never dared to voice?" Jack felt a tightening in his chest. "Like what?" "I've bottled up feelings about my relationship with my mom," Sarah confessed, her vulnerability cracking the facade they built. "When Dad left, it was like I lost both parents. She got lost in her grief, and I figured I didn't matter to her anymore." Jack's heart twisted at her honesty, feeling as if he were peering through the fog of their unspoken past. "You mattered," he insisted, empathy flooding his words. "You were just a kid, and it would crush anyone to bear that weight." Sarah nodded slowly, tears glistening in her eyes. "I thought if I behaved perfectly, I could earn her love back. Instead, it just shrouded me in this need for perfection, always thinking I had to be the perfect partner and the perfect mom." "I get that," Jack said quietly, his mind racing back to his own childhood wounds, the pressure of keeping harmony amidst chaos. "I've felt that urge to be perfect too. My parents taught me that love comes with conditions. I thought if I could just fix everything, I'd be worthy. The powerful echo of their past roared through the room, but alongside it came a realization: they could approach these shadows together. As the air grew heavier with emotion, Jack reached out, intertwining his fingers with hers. Whatever we uncover, we'll tackle it as a team. Absolutely, Sarah responded with conviction, her voice steady now. Let us unearth those buried truths, one memory at a time. We can turn this into strength. Okay, he agreed, feeling a growing sense of clarity. Let us do it. Do you have a specific memory in mind? She asked, her eyes wide as she invited him to share his truth. Jack took a deep breath, summoning his courage. One night I remember hearing my parents argue. It terrified me. I felt responsible, like it was my job to keep the peace. But I was also angry. Angry that I had to carry that burden at such a young age. The sadness on Sarah's face echoed his own heartache. I'm so sorry, Jack. It's not fair that you had to carry that alone. Jack sighed, the relief of sharing his truth mingling with sorrow. But now I see it was a shadow that conditioned how I responded to conflict. I've realized I've done that much of my life. I've shut down instead of confronting emotions. Her grip tightened around his, filling him with warmth. You're not alone anymore. We're in this together. They spent the next moments peeling back layers and wrestling with pain, memories turning from shadows into wisdom. As they laid bare their fears and hopes, a spirit of collaboration filled the kitchen. After some time, Jack felt a lightness overcome the tension that had once cloaked the air. I think we're starting to weave a new narrative, he murmured, his heart flaring with a fresh sense of purpose. A story filled with openness, with laughter, and above all love. You're right, Sarah agreed, her features softening. And the kids seeing us work through this will show them resilience. We can create a beautiful legacy, Jack said, his voice sincere. One built on transparency and connection. As they began to plan how to incorporate time for joy and play into their healing, a small voice piped up from the living room. Are you guys done talking? Can we bake more cookies together now? It was Mia, her innocence breaking the gravity of their conversation into light. Jack exchanged a smile with Sarah, the laughter between them like a burst of sunlight breaking through a storm. Yes, let us go be a family, he replied, rising to his feet. Together, they walked hand in hand to meet their children, ready to embrace the chaos of life with open arms. As Jack took in the sight of their little family, he realized their love had ignited a fierce determination to overcome, a fire that couldn't be snuffed out. This was the beginning of something beautiful, a fresh start. Jack could finally breathe. They were stronger together, and though the journey ahead remained uncertain, one thing was crystal clear: love had led them here, and love would carry them through. Now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. I want to hear from every one of you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread hope and healing together.